Good morning, Algebra. How you guys doing today? Hope you are fine diddly dandy. I have for us today a lesson on quadratic functions. Now, notice how there's no b term? Don't worry about that quite yet. We'll get to that later. But today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be describing our graphs. Now, I am on lined paper. You won't need graph paper. We're not going to be doing very detailed graphs. We're not going to be plotting points and things like that. We're going to be learning how our coefficient and our constant adjust, how they move the graph up and down, wide and narrow. We've done things like this before, talking about slope and whether it's steep or not, right? But right now, let's just get started. So we're actually going back to review from 8.4, which was all the way back in January. I know. I'm asking a lot of you guys to remember all the way back, but you can do it. So if we had the function f of x equals x squared, and I asked you to plot a t-chart, right? It's going to look something like this. So we have our x and our y and our function. And when we plug it all in, we get these three numbers. We get these points, making this graph. Forgive the mistakes, the errors. But, right, we're going to have our x values of 1, 0, and -1. So that's x is 1, 0, and -1. But our y values are 1, 0, and +1, which ends up with our parabola looking something like this. Now, our vertex, this is the point where it turns, right? That's the cup kind of in the palm of your hand right here, because it goes from it's a negative slope, negative slope, negative slope, negative slope, blink, changes, positive slope. This vertex is the turning point. We're going to kind of focus in on where the vertex is. That's going to be one of the things that we try to describe as we learn about our coefficient and our constant, what they do to our function. So if you remember, if we have y equals x squared plus 1, this plus 1, that constant, is going to translate up because it's +1. So that's going to take our vertex up 1. It's going to shift the whole parabola from here to about here, okay? Same with this -1, except this is going to take our parabola from here to about here. So everything is just going to shift down a little bit. Okay, this should all be familiar. We've talked about a lot of stuff like this, not just in 8.4, but since then. All right, we're way up here in chapter 12. So in these past 4 or 5 chapters, we've talked a lot about this kind of stuff, about translating, adjusting, and that's what our constant does. So hopefully this is familiar territory. We're now just applying it to quadratic functions. Okay. Now, we're going to start talking about functions where you're multiplying our x squared by a number a that isn't +1. So we're looking at this coefficient and how our coefficient adjusts the function. So if a is greater than 0, our parabola will open upward like this. But if a is negative, it will be flipped and open downward. So it's going to look something like that. If the absolute value of a is greater than 1, so it'll be narrow and steep, so it'll be more like this. But if the absolute value of a is between 0 and 1, the parabola will be wide and flat. Now, these are things that you're going to have to know in order to describe the function. Now, a little note on if it's between 0 and 1, think of a fraction. So it'll be like 1/2 x squared or 3/4 x squared. You know, those are just some examples. But again, those are not all fractions, but fractions that are between 1 and 0. So 4/3 x squared is greater than 1, so that's where we're going to have something like this. Okay, our first example. I need a name for my my eraser, so you guys are going to have to help me out with that. Okay, so let's say we have y equals 3x squared. So again, I'm going to make a little t-chart. And I'm going to plug in all these values. Oop, whoopsies. Disregard that second one. Right, I've plugged in -1 squared is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 0 is going to be 0. 1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3. If we plugged in 2, 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. So between 1 and 2, we go from 3 to 12. That means that we've got a really steep, right? We've got a really steep formula, right? Our A is greater than 1. 3 is greater than 1. So our parabola is going to be narrow and steep, right? If it was, 1 is, or rather 3 isn't that much larger than 1, right? If we're talking about 10x squared, this thing is going to go really steep, really quickly. Okay. Here's another example. Y equals 1/2 x squared. Again, if we plug everything in, we see that it's not changing a whole lot. So our parabola is going to look something like this. Okay. It's our coefficient is between 0 and 1. So our parabola is going to be wide or flat. That's the other way to describe it. Okay. Moving right along. I kind of mentioned this before in the notes, but here's the official note. Adding or subtracting C will move your vertex up or down. We describe our vertex as 0, C. For these instances where the formula is ax squared plus c, right, there's no b, our vertex is found at the point 0, c. So for this function, f of x equals x squared minus 4, where is our vertex? 0, c. In this case, 0, -4. Okay. That should be pretty straightforward for us. You guys are super smart, so you'll be able to figure that out. All right, we've got some practice. Now, for each of these functions, find f of -2, f of 3, and f of 5. That means our domain, so plug in these numbers for x. Don't do 1, 0, and -1. Do these three numbers and plug them in. Find their y values. Also state the vertex. Also state whether it's steep and wide, and if it opens up and down. So I need these 3 points and these 3 bits of information. Okay, I'll walk through the first one with you guys. So this first one, f of x equals 2x squared minus 7. Okay, so I'm going to have little Gloria or whatever. So this first point, I'm going to plug in -2 for x. So 2 times 2, or 2 times negative 2 squared minus 7. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 7 is 1. Okay. Plug in 3. 2 times 3 squared, well, 3 squared is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 minus 7 is 11. And 5, right? 5 is not a whole lot bigger. So that's going to give me 5 squared is 25 times 2 is 50 minus 7 is 43. Wow. So between 2, 3, and 5, we go from 1 to 11 to 43. Right? Because our coefficient is greater than 1, which is making this steep. Okay. Our vertex is at 0, c, 0, negative 7 in this case. It is opening up because it's positive coefficient. That means that it's going this way, not that way. And it is steep or narrow. Okay, let's work on this one. So we could either work on it this way, or what I'm going to do, see, I wish I left myself extra room. I could just use this room over here. Okay. La, 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 la. Okay, so I'm going to have x. I'm just going to draw a t-chart. And I know I have negative x squared plus 5. That's going to give me y. My x values are negative 2, 3, and 5. So this is negative 2 squared plus 5. Negative 2 squared is 4. Plus 5 is 9. This is going to be 3 squared plus 5. This is going to be 5 squared plus 5. 3 squared is 9 plus 5 is 14. 5 squared is 25 plus 5 is 30. Oh, but I forgot. We've got negative x squared. So this negative, because it's on the outside, it's going to be on the outside of my parentheses, meaning that all of these are wrong. Because it's negative 2 squared, which is 4, but it's negative 4. Negative 4 plus 5 is positive 1. This is going to be 3 squared, which is 9, but it's negative 9. Negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4. 5 squared is 25, but negative 25. Negative 25 plus 5 is negative 20. So my vertex is at 0, c, 0, positive 5. The second thing, that whether it's steep or wide, it is neither. It's normal, right? Because my A is normal parabolic slope. And if it opens up or down, it opens down because it's negative. See the difference that this negative sign can make? Make sure you watch it. Okay, this last one, let's do it again. Okay, I'm going to make another one. X. 3x squared plus 4. Okay, I've got negative 2, 3, and 5. 3 times negative 2 squared plus 4. Exponents first, negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 4 is 16. 3 times 3 squared plus 4. 3 squared is 9. Times 3 is 27. Plus 4 is 31. 3 times 5 squared plus 4. 5 squared is 25. Times 3 is 75. Plus 4 is 79. So, what's my vertex? 0, 4. And what's this? What's the, is it steep or narrow? It's steep, right? We've got a coefficient of 3, so it is steep. Steep, which is narrow. The other one would be flat and wide. And it opens up. It is a positive coefficient. All right, guys, hope this helps. If you have any questions, please comment below. Or you can email me. I would love to hear from you guys. Otherwise, you have a fantastic weekend. Bye.